Hi, boys and girls. Welcome to day 2 of chapter 24. When we left off, we had talked about that we are now in chapter 24, which is one of the chapters on matrimony, a promise of faithfulness and love. And we talked about that matrimony is one of the calls to discipleship. Jesus calls us to discipleship in one of the forms of discipleship, such as being single in the single life, being married and having a family, or being religious, or becoming a priest or a bishop. And the first part we're going to talk about today is the marriage is the sacrament of matrimony. Yesterday, we talked about matrimony as the name of a sacrament, and that we said that in that sacrament, we share the same human dignity that comes from being made in God's image. We also said that since Jesus' time, the wedding at Cana, marriage has been an effective sign of Jesus' love and presence. An effective sign means it brings about what it represents. So in the sacrament of matrimony, people are getting married and they actually get married. That sacrament actually takes place. So today we're going to continue talking about marriage being a covenant. We're going to talk about what that word means, being built on Christ's love for the church, remembering that capital C church means the people. So marriage is a covenant. We're going to talk about what that means, based on the love that Jesus Christ had for the church. We're going to start reading right here in the We Believe section. We read in the Old Testament that God made covenants or special agreements. I'm going to highlight that because God did make covenants with the people. Remembering that God made a covenant with Moses and the people, the Jewish people, as they were leaving Egypt on their way back to Israel. He promised them that I will be your God and you will be my people. I will deliver you from slavery and you will be my people. Here are 10 rules, 10 commandments that you need to follow for me and you to have a good relationship. Let's continue reading right where we left off. With his people, God's covenant with Moses and the Israelites is very special. In this covenant, God promised to protect the people and to help them live in freedom. He promised to be their God. That's what I had just said. In return, the people promised to be God's people. They agreed to live as They agreed to live as God wanted them to live. This covenant or promise is about the faithfulness between God and his people. God remains true to his word, and the Jewish people continue to live by the covenant today. Next paragraph. Christians believe there is also a new covenant. This new covenant is between Jesus Christ and the church. It is based on the Son of God's complete love for the church. Next paragraph, top of the next column. Jesus promises to love us always and be with us. He invites us to trust and believe in him. He calls us to love him with all our hearts. He even sends the Holy Spirit to help us respond to his invitation. In return, we, the church, promise to love Jesus and one another. We promise to be faithful and to follow his teachings and the teachings of the church. We promise to do our best to live as Jesus calls us to live. The church sees marriage as a covenant too, remembering that word covenant means promise. The marriage covenant is the lifelong commitment between a man and a woman to live as faithful, loving partners. Let's highlight that. Let's keep reading. The marriage covenant reminds us of Christ's covenant with the church. Christ fully loves his people and keeps his covenant with them. In marriage, a husband and wife try to model their love on Christ's love for his church, sometimes called the bride of Christ. I'm going to highlight bride of Christ, and I'm going to highlight church, because the church is sometimes known as the bride of Christ, because that's how close the relationship is between Jesus Christ and the people. Let's keep reading at the next paragraph. The love between a husband and a wife is a sign of God's love for all his people. Let's highlight that. It is a sign of Christ's love for his church. The love between a husband and a wife is meant to be generous, faithful, and complete. Their love can bring about a child, the gift of life. A married couple promises to share and express, next page, this love only with each other. That is why polygamy, or having more than one spouse at the same time, is against the marriage covenant. So that is why in the Catholic Church, a man marries one woman, a woman marries one man, and that's it. That's their relationship. They're modeling the relationship between Jesus and the church. One man, one church. One man, one woman, one man. In the next section, faith forever faithful. Christ will always love us. He will forever keep his promise to share God's life and love with us. So Christ's love for the church is permanent. In the same way, the marriage covenant is meant to be permanent too. Divorce breaks the marriage covenant. Let's highlight that. Understanding what divorce is. I'm going to leave the book just for 1 second. Divorce is not a sacrament. Divorce undoes the legal contract between the man and the woman. It does not end the sacrament of matrimony. Matrimony is a sacrament. Marriage is the contract, and that gets very confusing. All I care that you understand out of this conversation is that when a man and a woman get married, it's meant to be forever. Divorce can break that marriage covenant. I'm going to keep reading where it says Catholics who are divorced. Catholics who are divorced and remarried are not separated from the church, but cannot receive the Eucharist. I'll leave the book again. That can be very confusing. Lots of moms and dads get divorced and they continue to receive the Eucharist. That is a decision that moms and dads and priests make. It is possible, and I'm not going to get into it now, it is possible for moms or dads, husbands, ex-wives to receive the Eucharist, even though they're divorced. Let's keep reading. Once Jesus was teaching about marriage, and he said, "What God has joined together, no human being must separate." Christ and the church teach us that the marriage covenant is not to be broken. Let's highlight that. In the sacrament of matrimony, the husband and wife agree to be loyal and true to each other for the rest of their lives. If a married couple does have difficulty in their relationship, they can turn to their family and parish community for prayer and support. God's grace helps married couples, and they can turn to the sacraments of the Eucharist and penance to strengthen and heal their relationship. Often during these kinds of difficulties, children do not understand what is happening to their parents. They may be confused and sad. It is important that they not blame themselves for these difficulties. They are not responsible if their parents get separated or divorced. Though separation and divorce are very painful, God continues to offer his healing to all who need it. Though things change in our lives, God always loves and cares for all of us. So let's understand what this chapter is talking about, this lesson is talking about. Marriage is designed to last forever. When moms and dads get married, they stand before the altar and they promise God that they will love the other person forever. That intention is honest. That intention is true. They stand before God and each other and vow to love each other forever. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. Divorce is an option, but it is not an option that people enjoy. It is an option that brings about pain and heartache and sadness, and sometimes kids just don't understand what that's all. What's really important is that if mom or dad do get divorced, that it is not your fault. It has nothing to do with what you did, and hopefully, moms and dads can help raise their children together, even though they're not living under the same roof. Tomorrow, our conversation is going to lead to the actual ceremony itself. What happens in a sacrament of matrimony? What does the man do? What does the woman do? What does the priest do? What is the deacon? What's his job? We'll talk about that tomorrow. All right, I'll see you all tomorrow and have a great day.